This is a comment on my recent video about pacing in D&D, and it's a good point, and we should have this discussion. So, the 6 to 8 encounter day from the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide is from a section called the Adventuring Day, which is under the section on combat encounters. So just by organization, it's reasonable to assume that those 6 to 8 encounters are intended to be combat encounters. It is also reasonable to say that it doesn't have to be combat encounters. It can just be encounters that consume resources of some kind. Eat hit dice, eat spell slots, things like that. But it is really difficult to make those non-combat encounters consume expendable resources. When players walk into a social situation, they don't typically go in thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to ask the wizard to burn a bunch of spell slots and the cleric's gonna have to heal me. Like, no, that's not how that works. You're probably gonna use like guidance and maybe enhance ability, so low-level resources in small quantities. So those aren't serious resource expending encounters. The particular comment that I'm starting this video from calls out doors and traps. Handling doors, you might cast find traps to see if there are traps in the area, but it's incredibly imprecise, so you still need to fall back on skills. You might handle locks by casting knock, but knock, like, it's an expensive resource for what can be handled with a sleight of hand check in the 2024 rules or thieves tools check in the 2014 rules. And it's so easy to be good at that. Why would you bother taking knock? Traps have that same problem. Like, you can't reasonably expect players to go through significant limited resources when they're handling a trap. They might take some damage, so they might need to take a short rest and spend some hit dice, or they might go through some inexpensive healing resources. Like, if they have time, they could use Prayer of Healing or something like that to heal themselves a whole lot at a very, very low resource cost. So we can't reasonably expect social situations, doors, traps, exploration scenarios. We can't expect those to be a real resource pressure, especially since so many of those problems can even be handled by completely mundane means. Like, all of those situations can be handled perfectly by a well-built rogue with no spells of any kind, and it doesn't require a single resource. It just requires time and checks and maybe rolling well. So we can't reasonably expect non-combat situations to deplete resources in the same way that a combat encounter would. So when we account for balancing an adventuring day, when we account for pacing challenges for players, like, those things are all fun parts of the game, but they don't make combat harder. And that's the issue with D&D's pacing, is how do we make combat adequately challenging for a party?